Knight6831 says, "Hi, Toby Benson. My question is, what is your opinion on the Trump's wife speech plagiarism controversy?"
I don't see what the big deal was, baby. People acting like they never copied off nobody before.
Well, don't you think you should declare that maybe you have a potential conflict of interest here? You remember when we had the writers group and you submitted a story that was basically just Toto lyrics? I mean, that's plagiarism.
Yeah, I remember that. And now that I'm thinking about it, you reminded me of this other time when I wrote a book that was all my own work, and you and Stuffy didn't like it, and you just deleted it without even asking me. So, yeah, the more I think about it, baby, the more I think that maybe it's a good idea for you to just shut the fuck up and not be judging other people's writing, whether they copied that shit or not. What do you say, baby?
Yeah, okay. Here's a question from Inertia. Steve, how do you feel about movie adaptations of books? I mean, if there's a book I really like and they make a movie or TV show out of it, I often find I can't resist watching them even though I am very disappointed in the movie or TV show. What is your take? Well, I'm more of a movie person than a book person for the most part anyway, so I tend to not take as dim a view of movie or TV adaptations of books as a lot of people do. I mean, conventional wisdom is that the book is always better than the movie. But there are definitely exceptions to that. And being an optimist and being someone who is more of a movie person than a book person, I try to focus on those exceptions. And there are times when actually the movie has been able to elevate source material from a book and make it into something far greater than it was in its original written form. And probably the best example of that is The Godfather. The Godfather is a very popular book and was a bestseller when it was released and is very widely read, but it's generally sort of viewed, at least among critics, as being just kind of trashy, kind of commercial, just, you know, a book that isn't necessarily like high literature. But the movie of The Godfather, the film of The Godfather, is considered by a very broad consensus of movie critics and also movie fans to be one of the greatest American films ever made. So the film adaptation actually was able to elevate what was seen as just sort of trashy, common, but very popular material and turn it into something truly artistic that is widely admired by cinema snobs and by your everyday sort of movie-going folk. So I tend to look more at things like that. And yeah, if there's a particular book that I really love, and there's a movie adaptation or a TV adaptation of it coming out, obviously I'm cautious because there are many instances where the movie or the TV show has turned out to not be nearly as good as the book or has not stayed true to the spirit of the book and that sort of thing. But I'm always curious and I'm always going to watch it. I mean, they've been teasing me for like the last 10 years with these reports of the attempts to make a movie adaptation of the book The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which is, I so loved that book when I read it. And the movie has never actually happened. But if the movie ever does happen, I will be there to see it, you know, opening weekend. I would love to see a movie version of Cavalier and Clay. I would be unable to resist. Here's one from Patrick Dodds. Prospector Jones. First, I love your work with your tunneling and all. Are you a fan of the classic American Western TV series like Gunsmoke, Rawhide, Bat Masterson, Bonanza, etc.? And if you are, what's your favorite and why? Also, can you wish Steve and everyone a happy 200th?
Happy 200th.
Thank you.
Anyway, them old westerns. Yeah, I used to watch them old westerns on TV. I liked Bonanza and Gunsmoke. And I'll tell you what else I liked was Maverick. That was always really funny. And, I'll tell you what one I really enjoyed was Rawhide, which starred a young feller named Clint Eastwood, who, if you saw him back then, knowing what he looks like now, you might not even recognize him, because of course, back then he was a good-looking young man, and now he looks like he's got a condom stretched over his skull, and also he turned out to be kind of a jerk.
Here's a question from Not Me But Another. Steve, I have a question that seems like you could have a good answer. When anti-feminists complain on the internet, why do they often specifically blame third-wave feminism? I think there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, as you say in your full question, which I truncated for the video, third wave feminism is the most recent wave of feminism. At least it's the most recent wave of feminism that most people generally accept. There are some who say there is actually a fourth wave going on at the moment, but most people agree that the third wave is the most recent wave, or is the current wave of feminism. So people who complain about third wave feminism are basically complaining about feminism as they perceive it today. And in that way, they're really no different than people who complain about black civil rights activists today and then say things like, oh, I would have supported Martin Luther King. You know, the way they did it 50 years ago was fine. The way they're doing it now is what I have a problem with. It's that sort of thing. And also, with a lot of it, maybe not with all of it, but with a lot of the opposition to third wave, I don't think it's a coincidence that third wave feminists are the ones who tend to focus on racial issues and LGBTQ issues and intersectionality, and try to work to make feminism as inclusive as possible and to reach out to marginalized people. I think some people have a particular problem with third wave feminism for the same reason that some people have a particular problem with President Obama. Whether people realize it or not, or intend it or not, there is definitely an aspect of racism in a lot of the opposition to third wave feminism. Here's a question from Conference Report. Question: do you think there is a connection between the shift to vegetarianism that you have made and the feminism you support? Currently rereading The Sexual Politics of Meat by Carol Adams, which is what's motivating my question. I've not read that book. That sounds like an interesting book. I don't think there's a connection between my vegetarianism and my feminism. My support for feminism and women's rights definitely predates my vegetarianism. I don't think I can say that my vegetarianism is any kind of direct outgrowth from my feminism. I mean, I guess you could make some sort of an argument that they're connected somehow. Maybe feminism and just sort of trying to be more aware of social justice and social inequalities in general has made me more conscious of things, and that made me feel like it was more important to not eat meat. Maybe there's something there, but it was certainly nothing that I've ever been aware of, and certainly nothing that I intended. Now, just because I didn't intend it doesn't mean that it's not there and that it didn't happen and that feminism wasn't an influence on my vegetarianism, but I don't perceive it as being that. The main reason, at least the main conscious reason why I went vegetarian, was for health reasons, because I just think it's a healthier diet. And I realized that we weren't eating all that much meat to begin with. I mean, meat was something that we did not eat with every single meal anyway, so it wasn't even really that much of a sacrifice. And the adjustment to vegetarianism has not been as big of a challenge as I might have thought it was, before I made the decision to go vegetarian. But I don't think it has anything to do with my feminism, but I could be wrong about that. This one is from Will Cook, Vexus Illustration. Do you think that resurrections in fiction cheapens death within those stories? For example, Superman's death, Spock's death, etc. I know there is a genuine Phoenix narrative, but I don't feel that is why resurrections are so often used in pop culture. In my opinion, Spock should have been truly dead after the Wrath of Khan. Harsh, I know, but I love the character, hear me out. Bringing him back to life just cheapens the story and his character, as well as letting the other characters off the mourning hook. Your thoughts? I agree with you. I mean, I'm glad that they brought Spock back from the dead, just from a purely selfish fan point of view. I like the fact that Spock was around after Star Trek II. There were some great Spock moments, in Star Trek IV and even in Star Trek V and certainly in Star Trek VI. And I'm just glad that Spock was still around and wasn't permanently killed off in Star Trek II. But in general, as a rule, I think you are spot on. You know how sometimes if you're a nerd, you're a comic nerd or a sci-fi nerd, and you sometimes fantasize, like, what would I do if I was in charge? Well, one of the things I would do if I was in charge of, like, a comic book publisher, of a publisher that published superhero comics, like DC or Marvel, one of the first things I would do is declare a moratorium on resurrecting dead characters. I would give the creative teams maybe 6 months after I took over, and I would say, look, if there's any dead character that you want to bring back to life that's really important to what you have planned, do it now. Do it within the next 6 months, because after that, if you kill somebody off, they are dead. They are staying dead forever, or at least as long as I'm in charge, because I completely agree. I think undoing character deaths is incredibly damaging dramatically. It really harms the characters. It makes it difficult to really write character development. It makes it difficult for death to mean something. If you've created an environment where you're telling stories where death doesn't mean anything, where death is not permanent, that to me is a problem. Death should be permanent. If you decide to bring death into a story where a character dies and it means something, it hurts the characters that survive, it causes them to mourn and to grieve, and it changes their lives, that should be important. That should be permanent. That should not be something that can just be undone in a few months. So yeah, I'm completely on board with you. I completely agree. But for hypocritical, completely personal, selfish reasons, I'm glad they brought back Spock. This one is from Sam Clemens, RIGL. Millicent. Do Huskies have their own take on Lovecraftian eldritch horrors beyond space and existential terror, such as Cthulhu, Shoggoths, the Elder Ones, etc.?
Well, first of all, get the name right. It's Millicent. Let me tell you, Lovecraft was a ridiculous blowhard, and really all of this Cthulhu and all that other nonsense was really just a misappropriation of the Husky mythology. So as far as I'm concerned, Lovecraft can go to hell. Husky hell.
So Husky hell is for humans, not for Huskies?
Exactly. Husko created hell just for humans. It's the holding cell for humans. It's the human kennel. So just think of it that way.
This one is from Joshua Purvis. Hi, Steve. I have a question for you and Stuffy. I like those videos. It would be cool if you did an Indiana Jones video. What are yours and Stuffy's favorite videos you made? Thanks. Enjoy your videos. Hi, Stuffy.
Hi, Joshua.
Well, I'll go first. If I had to pick my favorite Steve and Stuffy video, and I can only pick one, it would probably be the video we made about Trekkergate, where we were sort of making fun of Gamergate by having a fight about Trekkergate, which was a movement that claimed it was about ethics in Star Trek journalism, but was actually about harassing women in the Star Trek fan community. And actually, I'll show you something, and this is absolutely true. I promise that I did not set this up for the video, and actually my good friend Jason Harding can confirm this if you're wondering. At the end of that video, there's a shot where I open my wallet and I take out a photograph of Commander Riker, and I stare at it tearfully. I still have that photograph in my wallet to this very day, and I will show it to you right now just to prove it. There it is. That's the picture of Commander Riker that I gaze at tearfully at the end of that Steve and Stuffy video. So yeah, that's who you're dealing with. Stuffy?
I think my favorite is Steve and Stuffy on the Other Side with the parallel dimension. It was fun to play the evil version of myself. And I also really liked our first video from this year. I think it was titled Steve and Stuffy and the Thing That Can't Be Unseen, because it's always nice to have a love scene.
Well, nice for you maybe, not necessarily nice for anyone who happened to be watching.
Nice for me, that's what I meant.
This one is from Sydney6586. Sup, Steve? I watched your chat with Foxy Jezebel and stumbled upon a topic I'd love to hear your opinion on. You two were discussing empathizing with experiences you've not had yourselves. You talked about not having the experience of a black person, and she talked about not having the experience of a rape victim. I believe both of you did say, even though you did not have these experiences, you can still empathize with people who have. What do you think? Can you have real empathy without ever having the experience yourself? Or would it be more of a deep sympathy from a place of understanding? I do think you can empathize with people even if they have been somewhere that you haven't been. And I actually think it's very important to try to do that. Even if you haven't, say, if you yourself are not a sexual assault survivor, or if you yourself are not a member of a group that has been mistreated, and you can't know for sure from personal experience what that feels like or what that does to you, you can still empathize by trying to project yourself into that person's shoes, by using your imagination, by listening to what they are telling you. If the person is telling you about their experience, I think you can imagine for yourself what it would be like in that person's shoes, and you can empathize with them on the basis of that. Now, that is not the same thing as having lived through it. And that is a very important distinction. And it is extremely important, I think, for anyone who wants to be an ally to someone who is from a background or has walked a path that you have not walked yourself. It's very important to always remember that being able to imagine what it's like for that person is not the same as knowing what it's like from your own firsthand experience. Carlisle the Cinephile says, my first question is for Toby Benson. I got on that bus to Hagerstown like you asked me to, walked to that particular gas station, and wrote those 7 numbers on the wall of the 3rd stall in the men's bathroom. I know you said not to ask any questions, but my curiosity won't abate. Now that the job is done, can you please explain to me why you had me do that? Also, why did you make me pay for my own bus ticket?
Let me tell you something, baby. You don't need to know what your mission was in order to know that your mission was accomplished. And I'm here to tell you that your mission that day was accomplished. So congratulations and thank you very much. And as to why did you pay your own bus fare, the answer to that is right in the question. You paid it, which means I didn't have to pay it, which is the answer to your question.
My second question is for Millicent. I asked Steve a few weeks ago how you met him and the others and how you came to live with them. He didn't give me a satisfactory answer, so I figured I'd hear it from the horses, or rather, the husky's mouth.
How I came to this house is a long, sordid story, but suffice it to say that the humans were happy to have me, and I settled for them.
One last bit from Carlisle's question, and finally, since this video comes out 5 days before I turn 21, could the cast of Steve and Stuffy send me a birthday shout-out? Well, I think we can arrange that. Millicent, would you like to start us off?
Happy birthday, Carlisle.
Happy 21st birthday, baby.
Happy birthday, Carlisle.
Happy birthday, Carlisle.
Happy birthday, Carlisle the Cinephile. Oh, it rhymes. How adorable.
Happy birthday, Carlisle.
I want to wish a happy birthday to Carlisle the Cinephile, and I recommend consumption of alcohol among treasured friends. In my experience, it makes it much easier to deny the inevitable approach of oblivion.
Happy birthday, Carlisle. This one's from Dr. Babylon. Steve, I'm having trouble articulating why I like The Matrix, but I hate Man of Steel, considering they have a lot of the same problems. Both movies spawned an unnecessary franchise, but although I never planned to watch Batman v Superman or anything else from the DCEU, I watched and enjoyed both Matrix sequels and The Animatrix. Any thoughts? I don't enjoy either film either. I think it's well known among my viewers how I feel about Man of Steel, and I am not crazy about The Matrix either. But I do think the reason that The Matrix is more enjoyable, and I would agree with you, I enjoy The Matrix much more than I enjoy Man of Steel as well, even though I don't think The Matrix is that good of a movie. One of the main reasons is that The Matrix is fun. The Matrix might not be all that smart. It's certainly not as smart as it thinks it is, but it's fun. It has style. Its action scenes are done with some creativity and with some flair. Its performances are fun. They're sort of over the top and corny, especially in the case of Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne. It's not exactly what I would call good acting, but it's entertaining. It's fun to watch. And I don't see anything like that in Man of Steel. And the action scenes in Man of Steel are not carried off with any kind of style, at least not any kind of style that I find compelling or entertaining. It's just an assault. It's just a sensory assault. And the action scenes in The Matrix, even the ones that go really, really over the top, like the lobby shootout, they're not just a pure sensory assault. There's a little bit of filmmaking going on. There's a little bit of flair. There's some exhibitions of style. There are things in The Matrix to sort of look at and to cling to if you are a film fan. And there are things to look at and to cling to if you're someone who just likes to watch movies and have a good time. Even if it's a bad movie, it can be an entertainingly bad movie. And I just don't think there's anything in Man of Steel like that. I think Man of Steel is just gloomy and depressing and loud and obnoxious and violent and joyless. And I don't think you can say that about The Matrix, even though I don't think The Matrix is, when all is said and done, a good movie. So that's what I would have to say about it. Oh, and that brand new sound means that regulation play is over for this week, and it is time to move in to sudden death, or what we might also call
The lightning round.
Troubleshooter125 asks, speaking of Kubrick, while I dig 2001: A Space Odyssey, I don't know as I'm much of a fan of his. If you were to try to change my mind, what movie or movies would you recommend? Paths of Glory, which I know Shadow Man also recommended to you in his reply to your question on the comments page, but I would definitely second that. If you have never seen Kubrick's Paths of Glory, starring Kirk Douglas, I would highly recommend it. One of the very, very best Kubrick films ever. Der Wunderbar asks, would you rather be terribly amazing or amazingly terrible? Personally, I would rather be amazingly terrible. Way less pressure that way. What do you think, Toby Benson?
I gotta go with terribly amazing, baby. But then again, I ain't got a choice.
Here's one from Old Comic One. This question is for Jack, my favorite character. When was the last time that you were stone cold sober? And is it true that you burned down the local AA chapter in Hagerstown?
Well, I had a brief spell of sobriety last year during my separation from Toby Benson. But prior to that, I can't remember ever being stone cold sober during my entire residence of these United States. In fact, I remember the last time I was stone cold sober before last year was when I was on the boat on my way over here from Ireland. And let that be a lesson to everyone. Always pack more liquor than you think you'll need. Trust me. And no, I did not burn down the AA chapter in Hagerstown. I set fire to it. It didn't burn all the way down. So there.
Here's one from Kevin Logan, a question for Toby Benson. Can you please adopt me as one of your own?
Nah, baby, I ain't trying to have no kids. They just slow you down. And plus, adoption is expensive, baby. I ain't spending no money on that shit.
Sabrina Luizides Meredith asks, hey, Stuffy, what's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, I would have to say Eyes Without a Face.
You're so arty.
Thank you.
Here's one from Heather Fusilier. She says, so I am an elementary music teacher by trade and an atheist. One of the things I miss most about church service is the music, and have started taking my favorite hymn tunes and reworking the lyrics to a more secular setting. So my question to you, dear Steve, is do you have a favorite hymn tunes that I might take on as my next piece? Sincerely, Heather Fusilier. Yes, I see what you did there, Heather. What about All Creatures of My God and King? That's a pretty one, right? Have you heard that one before? Have you done that one yet? All creatures of my God and King, raise up your voice with us and sing. Alleluia, alleluia. I probably fucked that up. It was probably flat as hell, but it's that kind of thing. J. Dottify. Steve, does it get on your tits when people give you shit on the internet, or do you actually find it mildly amusing? Sometimes I find it very amusing, especially when people declare victory in fights that never took place. Like when people make YouTube videos about me declaring that they've destroyed me and killed my channel when I have not even slowed down and I don't even really talk about them that much and I haven't even watched the video and nothing they do really makes any difference to me. And it's almost as if I don't care what they think, and it's like they almost don't have any power over me at all, and yet they seem to think they've won some great victory. That really amuses me. That amuses the shit out of me, if I want to tell you the truth. Rob Adams says, a question for Millicent. Why on earth do you put up with these non-husky Egypts?
Good question.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
Here's one from David Edwards. What are your thoughts on alternative voting systems, such as instant runoff, where you vote for your top 5? And what about the idea of a multi-member presidency? I'm not sure about a multi-member presidency. I think I like having just one president. But as far as instant runoff voting, I think it is a fantastic idea. I think it is far superior to the first past the post system. And in instant runoff voting, for anyone watching who doesn't know, you don't just vote for one candidate on the ballot, you vote for your number 1 choice, and then you also vote for your second choice, your third choice, etc. And then if your number 1 choice is eliminated from the count because they didn't reach a certain threshold of support, then your vote for the number 2 candidate gets counted instead. And that way it ensures that whoever wins the election will have received a majority of votes. So no one can win the election with less than a true 51% majority of the vote. So nobody, if you're in a 3 or 4 way race, you guarantee that the person who got 34% of the vote is not going to win. The winner will be someone who wins a true majority of the vote. I think that's a much better system. Vitamin W, you said on Facebook recently that Adi is an anarchist when hungry. Is she a taxationist, theft, anarchism, capitalist, or a Rousseau-style noble savage, or a watch the world burn type? Adi just wants to smoke weed and not have people hassle her. That's the kind of anarchist she is. No, actually, she's a cat. So she is very much the watch the world burn type. That's it for the lightning round, everybody. That's it for the questions this week. Before I get out of here, one thing hasn't changed, as I have fiddled with the format a bit in this 200th episode, and that is that I will be giving a shout out to someone or something that I consider to be deserving of more attention than it is getting. And for my 200th episode, I picked a really special shout out. This is an organization that is doing such amazing work and for such a noble and very, very necessary cause. The shout out this week goes to a group called My Stealthy Freedom, and I'll be linking you to the Facebook group of My Stealthy Freedom. There's also a website and there's a Twitter presence, but start with the Facebook group. What this is, My Stealthy Freedom is a group dedicated to women's rights in Iran, and specifically to putting up, posting photographs of women in Iran who have taken off their hijab, who have freed their hair in defiance of the much more conservative, strict, orthodox interpretation of Islam that dominates Iran, that tells women to keep their heads covered. And the reason I'm shouting them out this week of all weeks is many of you may have seen on the news or on the internet somewhere else that it's becoming somewhat of a trend for men in Iran to wear a hijab and cover their own hair in support of women, of their wives, and of women that they care about in Iran, to demonstrate the unfairness of this standard, that women have to cover their hair and men don't. So the Men in Hijabs movement to protest for women's equality in Iran is something that's actually started on the My Stealthy Freedom page, and you can go there to see those pictures and to find out more about that trend and that movement. And it is a great organization. It is a great page to pay attention to like, and to continue to check in on every now and then if you want to see a little bit of online activism being done in support of women in Iran who are pushing back against the very oppressive gender inequality that they have to contend with on a daily basis. My Stealthy Freedom. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Go check it out. Check out the pictures. Give them a like. Leave a supportive comment. Let those women and the men who support them know that you support them as well. I also want to tell you that you should be listening to the Lemme Listen podcast. It's not nearly as important as the work that is being done over on My Stealthy Freedom, but hopefully you'll find it entertaining and you'll find it worthwhile. If you've never listened to one of the Lemme Listen podcasts, I highly recommend that you do so. The Lemme Listen podcasts are the creation of my very good friend Jason Harding, who is also the puppet master of Opinionville, which is an awesome YouTube channel that you should all be subscribed to. The Lemme Listen podcasts are Lemme Finish, which Jason co-hosts with Finite Atticus, American Monsters and How to Destroy Them, which is an awesome improv comedy podcast that is about like cryptozoology and is sort of a cross between Twin Peaks and Coast to Coast AM, if that makes any sense, and is just hilarious. I've guest starred on it a couple of times. It's currently going through its second season. New episodes of American Monsters are being posted all the time. You should check it out. A brand new movie podcast called Cinetific, which Jason co-hosts with Deadhead Animation, which is about examining the scientific validity of things in popular movies. Just an awesome brand new podcast that you should definitely check out, Cinetific. There's also Cinema Shack, which is another awesome movie podcast that is now a part of the Lemme Listen podcast family. And most importantly to me, dearest and nearest to my heart, is the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review podcast that Jason co-hosts with me, where we rewatch classic films that have a reputation as either being great or terrible. We give them a fresh review, we summarize the plot, we make fun of them, and we determine for ourselves and for your entertainment whether we think that these movies deserve their particular reputations for greatness or awfulness. And our new episode goes up today, the very day that this video is being published, and it is a review of the classic 1980s action film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Commando. So if you want to listen to our review of Commando, one of the great great, maybe, maybe not. 1980s action films. Check that episode out. You can listen to that episode and all of the past episodes of all of the Let Me Listen podcasts by going to LemmeListenPodcasts.com. And I really hope that you do, because I love my small contribution to the Let Me Listen podcast, and I just love the Let Me Listen podcast family in general. It's awesome, and you should be listening to it. That's it for me, everybody. I'm out of here. Please leave a comment on this video asking me your question for next time. You can ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of your questions in the next episode of You Had to Ask as I possibly can. So until the next episode, take care, everybody. Hey folks, one last thing. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one and like all the videos that I do on this channel by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives, and for as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron of this channel. Thanks everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.